welcome to another edition of Kite Dart Community Coaching and Consulting Sessions, which I think is going to be the new name going forward because I couldn't pick either one. Today, our guests are Angie Drake and Crystal. It's Whiteaker, yes? Yep, perfect. Cool. All right. So if I could have Crystal, if you want to start by just introducing your business and just kind of, you know, what you do, and then we'll have Angie do that, and then we'll come back and we can introduce the request for coaching. Cool.
Cool.
Perfect.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Hello, everyone. My name is Crystal Whiteaker. My company is Crystal Lily Creative, and I'm an inclusive branding and leadership development consultant. So I work with brands and leaders to get them rooted in their core values so that they can create more aligned, inclusive communities that are reflective of their core values. And when I say community, I'm talking about their organization, their team, people they're working with, all of those things. And my question is about proposals.
Cool.
Yeah.
Angie?
Yeah, my name is Angie Drake. My business is twofold. I run a blog called NotYourAverageAmerican.com where I've written about my travels and living in South America for the past, the blog is now 10 years old. And I've taken a lot of that information and started to consult with tourism companies and conservation projects in South America, particularly in Ecuador, on how to better communicate with a U.S. audience. Yeah, and I'm here to talk about stuff I have trouble with. So we'll get more into that when it's my turn.
Crystal's already in the chat. Ooh. This is I love this because I mean, in this formula is like an iteration of event-based marketing that we've done in the past. But what I love about this is it gives folks a chance to kind of see that they're not the only entrepreneur on the planet who's intentional about what they're doing based on values first. And it's that intentionality that I think characterizes not only our approach, but the people that do best with us, where, you know, that impact and profit are both equally, if not impact more, considered in the conversation. So I'm glad you're all here. And if you're like that, this is your room. And if you're not like that, probably go away now, because we don't like those Donald Trump wall building people up in here. Okay, just for posterity. All right, Crystal, what shall we address?
All right. So I have a very solid brand foundation. My messaging is solid. I know who I'm speaking to up to this point. I know really you get my emails, right?
No, you're really good. Yeah, no, you're really, really good. She's really good. You should hire her to do that shit. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're
so yeah. And up until about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, I was primarily working with smaller business owners. So people that had teams of less than 10 people or solo entrepreneurs, on supporting them in their overall brand presence, their messaging, how they're showing up as leaders, making sure that every single thing they're doing is clear, connected, streamlined, and inclusive through the lens of their core values. Like, that is the solid foundation of the work that I do. And I have started doing it for larger spaces, and I started pitching to larger organizations where, you know, we're talking multi-million, billion-dollar organizations. And I want to make sure, because what works for one type of client, I know will not work for a different type of client. And the types of proposals that I have sent out, I think that they're warm. You know, they provide a lot of information. And I also couple my proposals with Loom videos, just as an overview to like walk people through, okay, here's your written proposal, and as a Loom like recap of our conversation to humanize it. So what I would like perspective on is, I can screen share if that's okay with you, Nate, and share what is included in proposals currently, and just get perspective on like, all right, this may or may not work for much larger organizations. Maybe I need to consider something different so that I can continue to scale the business.
Yep. You should be able to share.
Yeah, I'm just opening this up. All right, so here we go. Okay. So the first part of the proposal has just a brief overview of what the experience is, what its purpose is. It doesn't look like this when clients get it. Like all of these web links, they're actually hyperlinks and buttons, but when you export it to a PDF, it writes everything out, which is kind of annoying. But it talks about the framework and the experience that the framework that I use in my experiences. So that's all there. It has a little bit about the company. I make sure that I list my core values because I think that that's important since there's such a central focus on core values when I'm working with clients. I share about myself, considering I'm the main point of contact. I also include professional endorsements. And then there is, our commitment. They can learn more by going to our website. And then here is what is included. So the things that they get in their experience, what the deliverables might be. And then this will always change depending on the client and what they're getting. But then it's like, all right, here are the solution recommendations based on our conversation, add-on options if they need it. And I usually push for 6 months, but because I operate as a trauma-informed space holder, giving choice between how they want to integrate things, I think is really important. So like, do you want to do this really fast and have the intensity of it? Or do you want to slow it down and have a little more time for integration? And do you want to pay in full or do you want the monthly installments? Like I think it's really important to give that space and choice. And I make sure that I'm clear on what the booking requirements are. Mm-hmm. I include a link to schedule a call if they need any additional clarification. And then of course, the disclaimer, like what's the expression, Nate? You'll appreciate this, like shit or get off the pot.
Yeah, it's totally like I forget what they call it. There's a name for it. It's like no, you can't just sit on it for a year. Like if you don't think, you got to tell me yes or no, or we're gonna have to redo it. Sense of urgency. Yeah. Right. But it actually makes sense, right? Because things change and mostly our rates go up. So we don't want to be held to those older proposals.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. I got some stuff to say, which is sure a big surprise for everyone, but at least we marketed it as such.
Wait, say that?
Well, we said that, that you were going to get some coaching from me. So we're good. So I have my spidey sense is tingling. So I'm going to ask some questions. So this market that you're going after, how many deals have you closed with this size of organization thus far?
Oh, I'm just entering this market. Like okay, so literally, I'm just starting to enter this market.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
I love it. I think it's you don't need my validation or anything, but this is what scaling for impact looks like. Is that if we can get your work into organizations that have much larger budgets and much larger reach, it's going to make a much bigger difference. And I love that. And I got it. And then you're going to get paid more, which you deserve anyway. So right. I love that too.
Well, and I want to be able to do that too, because then it allows me to do more of the social impact stuff with the people that don't have the resources.
Exactly. I mean, and that's part of, I always think that way. We try to do that too, where we'll do, we do name your price coaching for all BIPOC people. And then I have white people that pay a premium for our services, and they know that that's what they're doing and they get value. So it works really good. Yeah. We always need more of both, strangely enough. So how did you come up with this strategy, like this design of the proposal from, you know what I mean? What was the process that you decided that this is what it needed to look like?
Polling my own peers and mentors and taking what felt good to me, getting advice and taking what felt good to me. And of course, obviously thinking like, what do I want people to know? What do I want to make sure I include that has, that persuasive element? Like, even some of the visuals that are included, like one of the visuals includes a graphic that like shows, okay, I've written a book, like I've literally written the book on this. I know the stuff. And giving them just like an at a glance outline of the framework and the approach that I use, because yes, these things are on my website, but I know that when people are looking at proposals, that they're not just looking at one, they're typically looking at many. And I wanted to make sure that the key information was there and that there were also endorsements, which is why I included some testimonials. And I've gotten mixed feedback on whether I should be including testimonials in proposals.
So the first thing I'll call out is that I don't sell into companies this size.
Okay.
I've created numerous marketing strategies for clients that have sold into companies of this size, and some of them have worked. So the next question I'm going to follow from that. So you asked your peer group, how many of the people that you asked about the proposal actively or successfully sell into businesses of this size?
At least a few of them. And I'm thinking about the largest client that I have worked with that was the highest paying client that I've worked with. And like this approach worked. Like they loved this. They loved the Loom video paired with it. And I'm like, okay, great. That's a start. So.
And then help me to understand, like, what is happening in the process up to when this gets sent?
So inquiry comes in, they are able to schedule a clarity call. My clarity calls are usually 20 to 30 minutes max. And I'm asking, the questions around what it is that they are looking for support around. For this specific one, it was a client. They're like, we are wanting to integrate more DEIB initiatives. We have no idea what we're doing. We have just begun, that sort of thing. So really just getting an understanding of where they're at, what their needs are, what their challenges are, and then asking for that permission of, okay, can I share what my process would look like if we were to work together? And at the end of that, asking if they have any clarifying questions and letting them know, okay, so following this, I will put together a proposal for you and send them that proposal and let them know that this is the next piece. So the proposal goes out, they're aware that it does have an expiration date.
Yeah. Cool. It makes sense. So you've already done like a clarity call. So yeah, this is a problem in general. And it's a problem because it ties directly to exploitation of labor. Because we're getting close to the RFP process, which is a very highly contested way of getting business. I'm part of a group called Consultants for Good, and there's a huge stand in that group that RFPs are exploitation and extractive. And I think it sounds like for me, you're asking what should and shouldn't be included in this proposal. And I think we'd be remiss to not talk about that. There's this real conversation of how much freaking work am I going to do for you for free to get your money, right? Which is this, and the precedent has been set. And it's complicated. So with that being like the lovely and simple to navigate, part of it that we get called out, there's a couple things that I'm keying on. The first one is if they're an incoming lead and they have sat on a call, they believe you already. Okay. And or let me say this, the degree to which they already trust you and know you're qualified is misaligned with the amount of qualification that you're doing on the proposal. That belongs earlier in the funnel. Okay, because I was just talking to somebody about this. We have this really screwy kind of like colonizer idea that time is money. When we're selling into with these larger organizations, we're not selling to owner operators. We're selling to a bureaucrat, right? Somebody with a job. And so in that case, typically they're committed to three things, right? One of them is not getting fired. The second one is looking really good so they can get promoted. And the third one is, getting what they paid for. So it's a different audience inside of that. So they're not I think if somebody that's super busy, which all these people are, that's going to take already, they've come in on their own volition, they've come in on a lead, they've already taken that call with you, they're taking you very, very seriously. And there's a lot in the proposal that's qualifying, and I don't think you need to qualify that much. Now, I'm biased because I love you, but you know what I'm saying? Like if this is in general, if people are going to give you their time, they already trust you, okay? And I've noticed that the tone of this proposal seems to be, and this makes sense though, right? Because it's a new segment, really given by a need to qualify. So I'm going to question that. And that's not because like of anything other, that's naturally what you would do is qualify because it's a new segment for you. And so, but they don't care.
You know what, Nate? That really landed for me. Like I felt that in my chest because
it's okay.
No, it is, because I'm even thinking about like how I feel like sending out these proposals because they're bigger. And I'm like, are they going to say yes? So you're like calling it out. Like, that's what it is. It's like,
look, this is,
you know what it's like, I'm stuffing the proposal with hire me.
Yeah, totally. Okay, good. I'm glad I got that. That's fine. By the way, ask me how I know.
How do you know?
Because I hate myself. Moving on. I mean, I always tell people, like, if you want to have a battle about who has the lowest self-esteem, pack a lunch. And I'm also going to acknowledge that I have a cis white male face, and you have had to work a fuckload harder in your life for every single thing you've gotten than I have. And so there's a natural tendency for that to show up because it's being better than everyone else at fucking everything, which has got you where you're at, and you are. So, and inside of when you're working in a hierarchy, that's how that had to go to get a promotion, yeah? But what's happening now is like, you see, this is so good. This is why I love you're here. This is the best question ever. You're the best. I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful for what you just said. You don't have to do that now. Because you've built the actual iteration of your business. Like, what I know of it is it started off with, you identified a demand in the market that you could do, that people were coming to the table with already. Right. And it was a deliverable, which looked like branding work and, deliverable, measurable deliverables. And as your arc, right, you wrote a book. You're moving from, and I love this, this is what empowerment really looks like. And this is what transformation of the world looks like, is when folks like you move from selling what you do to selling what you know. And we're selling what we know now. So what I would say is this. First of all, we need to get out there. And if anybody ever watches this, we need to find a person of color that shares your same values, because white people, if you're watching, not all people of color have the same value system, okay? That is selling into these markets, and ask them what they found out. So they need to be a person of color, they need to share your same values, and they need to have measurable experience selling into these areas, because they're going to know. Everybody will give you an opinion. Getting a qualified opinion, I think, is what's important. The second thing is, once you do that, is putting yourself in the shoes of, or taking whatever actions you need to do to put yourself in the shoes of the decision maker here, which is a very different, it's not like me or you. If I got to sell you something, you got to sell me something, it's our money. This is not their money. Positioned right, this will be so much easier. It's not as risky. They're managing big budgets, and there's an imperative. So this is going to be great. And then the third thing I would do is ask existing clients that are closest to this about other people's proposals. Because you're not getting them, you're giving them, but your clients are getting them. So you can ask them what they like and don't like about proposals. I'll tell you this. It's shared values that are going to be the biggest predictor of conversion. So if I'm writing these proposals and I'm putting information in, I'm going to demonstrate through the design of my products and services that I am committed to this challenge the same way they're committed to the challenge. And you know how to do that because you do that all the time for people.
Yeah.
It's the same shit. Questions, comments, concerns. What are you getting?
This is so good.
You're great.
Yeah.
So I like to talk a little bit about the lead domino, which is like, you know, right now we're not in the time or the space to create an entire plan of how you're going to go about solving it. And nor are we ever really in a business where do we ever really have that much time. But what would be the first action you could take that naturally would lead to the result you're looking for, which is the optimal proposal?
Can you rephrase the question? For
Yeah,
some
what's
reason
the
that
first
didn't-
thing you're going to do that if you do it, all the rest of this shit will happen?
Like to the proposal?
Because the whole goal here, right, is to create an optimal proposal.
Right.
Right. Well, not bullshit. It's to create a proposal that gets the deals you want it to get. And so that's the end result, the best proposal. And right now we're at here. So what's the action that you can take now that you know if you take it, it's going to cause all the other dominoes to fall that will end up in we got the right proposal.
I think, you know what? I think what I need to do is go back through the questions that I ask on my clarity calls and really look at those, like really examine those. And I've been trying so hard to like automate more of this process too, but at this level, you can't automate. That's what it is.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think what I need to do is go back and look at the questions that I'm asking on these clarity calls and only speak to what they are sharing in relation to those questions.
There you go.
And also stick to the values, like make sure that I'm including the values, because you're right. If they're talking to me, they already like, they're curious, like they want to know more. Like there is that trust there. So
and I know
there's a lot of shit that I can just delete from this.
Yeah, it's probably way too much about you, not enough about them, but that's fine. That's everybody does that shit. That's how we start in any new iteration because it's fine. It's like it's a known thing over here. So the other thing is gathering as much information you can from values aligned people about what works for them and what doesn't, which is also an excellent networking opportunity. So when we're moving from selling products to selling high level consulting, it's a different philosophy and you nailed it. It's what is our job as a consultant? It's to listen for so somebody's coming to us with a problem that they don't have the resources to solve as the way their business is right now. And when they hire us, they're hiring us because they feel like we know something they don't, or we have resources they don't, or we have experience they don't to make that problem solving faster and cheaper. And if we speak into that, that's going to be better. And values. But so what's cool though, I love this shit, is you already know how to do all that shit. And that's what got you here. So in a way, right, it's like going back to what started the business in the first place.
Going back to basics. Yeah.
It's a great scaling too. Yeah. It's like going back more humanized and bigger, more money.
Yeah. Okay. No, this is super helpful. Thank you.
There are some folks in the room that have some experience selling into larger organizations. Gili, I know you're in here. So if any of y'all have things to say to Crystal, you can, I don't know, Crystal, you want to drop your email in the chat?
Yeah.
You all should meet everybody anyway. Like
can we all be LinkedIn friends?
Yeah. Everyone in this room is worth a half an hour coffee call to everyone else in the room, because conversion runs on shared values. Even if you're just being practical, conversion
you should
runs
put
on
that
shared
on a
values.
mug.
Yeah. This is like, but that's the essence of how business development has become colonized. Because, or let me say this, that was the wrong way to say it. This is evidence of how current business development philosophy comes from colonizer philosophy, because the colonizer didn't care about the colonized. And that's this philosophy that white men have developed around sales and marketing, which is I'm going to go in the room and I'm going to convince all these people. Bullshit. You know, like in a sales interaction where, I can't force you to do anything. You have all the power. And that idea, that colonizer mentality, and then the reality of the situation, they just don't mix. So that's why values are so important. Because basically the RFP process is, give me what they'll do is, if I'm a big organization, got a large budget, I'm just going to put out an RFP, and a lot of people are going to give me a lot of really good ideas, and I'm going to steal them and give the money to my friend. That's RFPs. So thank you so much. You're the best. Lovely to see you. And if there's anything more I can do for you, you let me know.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. Angie.
Hey there. You ready?
I mean, I know you well enough now to know that probably whatever you ask, I'm going to be able to at least manage myself decently.
Yeah.
But
Well,
you're also like,
I think,
really, you're not that, you're smart.
I'm
So
going way back to basics, and I have
Okay,
a
cool.
feeling some of this is gonna, I think some of the old stuff's gonna come back up again, and it's really sort of scary that this is happening, but there you go. There is a new opportunity for me to talk about what I do.
Okay.
I have been invited to a virtual event to speak for 15 minutes
Okay.
on how storytelling in tourism can attract aligned clients. It's not exactly called that. I think it's socially conscious clients. I had it all written down, and now
it's so good.
It is going to be good. The event's called Women Thrive Through Travel, and I've been given 15 minutes. So it's not like a super long time to talk, but I'm not having a conversation with anybody. That does make me a little nervous to talk for 15 minutes without it being in an interview style. What I'm really struggling with, though, is how to end this. How do I, what's my ask? And see, and
great question.
Yeah. And I just did a course in Ecuador with people working in tourism and teaching them how to tell their personal story to attract aligned clients to their tourism projects. And I'm teaching them to have a request at the end, and it doesn't have to be a please buy my product. It can be something as simple as, please contact me again, or for them, I was trying to get them to really think about direct asks. Would you like to travel with me? Would you like to visit my eco lodge? Because in Ecuador, it's really considered impolite to ask questions. And for an American audience, if you don't ask the question, very often the relationship doesn't continue, even if someone wants it to, because they sort of think that maybe you weren't interested in them.
Right. But we make it up on the selling side that it's the opposite. Yeah, brilliant.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and so I'm sort of stuck with this. It's not a one-on-one. It's going to be a bunch of women who travel. Almost all of them are going to be travel coaches. Yep. So they're very interested in learning how to use their personal stories to sell their coaching and their consulting business.
This is such a perfect question for me.
Okay, so yeah, help me out. What am I going to do?
Okay, so let me just to make sure I have it right. I love this question too. I love this. I used to thank you for being a stand for this format. This is like the best shit. I know I'm in my UMC right here, and I can't even. I don't want to talk about myself too much, but just like I'm besides myself with like the opportunity that you're giving me to help Angie, and that this gets to get out there without people having to pay. So
okay,
here's the thing. So for me, so first of all, you should have a problem asking people to buy stuff because the economic system of the world hasn't done you or people like you any favors ever.
Right.
Some might argue that the whole purpose of an economic system is to oppress women and give men unfettered access to your bodies. I subscribe to that. So I always say that to people, like, this idea that we should be great with money and great with fucking capitalism and shit is bullshit. Like, it's a contentious system, and it doesn't seem to be like helping everyone equally. Understatement of the century. And entrepreneurship and capitalism are not the same, because entrepreneurs have to work and capitalists just exploit.
Okay.
So this is what I say to myself first, because I've had this challenge too. So, and the question really underneath this is like, what's appropriate?
Yeah, exactly.
It's more like, and you're not saying, what do I need to say to sell something? You're asking me what is appropriate to ask.
Yes,
Right?
so
Okay.
that I have consent, or that there is that
Mhm.
that I'm letting people know I have a product, but
Yep.
I'm also not beating them over the head with I'm selling, I'm selling, I'm selling.
So the first thing I do, so there's a strategy that I follow. And again, you're going to be so surprised, Angie, that it's like a holistic conversation. So that we can't talk about the ask until we talk about the content, and we can't talk about the content until we talk about the context. Who's there? So let's do context.
Okay.
So this is what's lovely about this, okay? And as I think about it, so let's say that probably with my numbers, like 90% of people, now it's less than that, or it's less than that. Let's say like 80% of people that show up to my workshops, that is the only time they're going to hear what I got to say. Right.
Right.
So in this thing, let's just say like you're 9 out of 10 people you're never going to talk to again. So, and you only have 15 minutes. So the context of the workshop is, what can I say in that amount of time that is going to make the biggest difference? 15 minutes, you can make 1, maybe 2 points. You know, so that's the come from that. And this is where you'll thrive. You know that, like, what's the most impactful thing you can teach? You don't have to answer it right now. So if I sit down and I do a workshop on like, when I do this planning workshop at the end of the year, it's where I'm at Isla. And what I want people to leave with is, and they can get a good business plan and some go on to be clients, but what I want them to leave with is the best plan is the one that works for you, the one that you'll do. It's intrinsic, not extrinsic. So that's what I want them to leave with. So if I do like a promo before that, I'm always looking at contribution. So this one, you got a room full of women that are in the travel industry. They're already dealing with that, what's getting created is that, you know, being in the travel industry is access to empowerment of women. Yep. What's the one thing you can teach them that's going to leave everyone in the room the most empowered? The ones that are going to leave. Do you know what it is?
I think I know what it is.
Probably you do. You're an expert on this. What is it?
Well, I was going to, the thing that popped in my head when you said the one thing that makes a difference, the biggest thing that makes a difference, it's your story can change its shape, but it should always be shaped by your values.
Boom.
So it's going back to your values.
That's
always.
It. So there you go.
Right.
That's it. Okay. So then the next question is, and how do you get that point across in 15 minutes? Right now, I tell
my story.
It's lived experience.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to tell my own story, and I'll tell my tourism story, why I'm working in tourism. Yep. That makes sense. And then I guess at the end of that, I call out the values that appear in my story. Normally I would prompt that from people. I'd say, okay, what values do you hear me talking about? But I can't prompt. Well, I can probably prompt in a chat. So maybe, that I'm unsure about. I need to figure that out. So
I want it clean. I don't have interaction. I have a strategy. Don't.
Okay.
I want this to live.
Don't have interaction. Okay.
No, because we wanted this to live on the website. Because this is, you see what I'm saying? Because so try that. Like you're getting the, oh, this was good. One time I was in the Landmark and this is a good one. And I asked the person who was like in charge of me when I was assisting I said, if you could go and go up to the moon and put one thing on the moon for everyone in the world to see, what would it be? And you just write, is that what you would write on the moon? You know, your story, what is it?
I said your story can change its shape. It should always be shaped by your values.
There you go.
Yeah. So
then you look at who's in the room and that it's a non-interactive space. And, you know, in AA, we get really good at these impactful shares because, you know, people are going to die and it might be the last meeting that they ever come to or the only one. So we talk about what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now.
Okay.
And this is the kind of sharing I think is really important when we have very little time, which is what it was like for you when you were only doing travel.
Yeah.
And then And then what happened that now you're a consultant and people are literally beating down your doors and you're too busy right now to take new leads, which is true. And then what it's like today. And I don't want to, I'll tell you, like, people relate on problems, challenges. Before I hear about how you're going to solve the problem, I want to know that, like, your experience is relevant and related to mine. And we get that by sharing what our challenges are.
Yeah.
And and I think exactly why it wasn't you're afraid to tell your story and all that. And that's what I'm doing. I'm going to sit in there in 15 minutes. I'm going to say, look, here's why I was afraid to tell my story. Here's what happened. And then I started telling it. And then here's what's happened in my business. And if you do the same thing, it'll happen for you.
Yeah.
Yep. And then the ask is, if you need help, email me.
Okay.
And I'll figure out how I can help you. Or you can say, look, I'm committed to helping you no matter what. And I know that, like, not everyone in this room is going to buy from me, or anyone who says he's going to buy from me, but just know, like, I'm committed that women tell their stories. So if there's anything I can ever do to help you, you let me know, because that's who you are, really, right?
Yeah. And that actually is easy to say because it's true.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, it's very true.
Yep.
Okay.
If you were asking me, like, in the cohort where we're related, I would say what feels best.
Okay. The only bad thing I can see happening from this, and it may not be bad, is that normally when I tell my tourism story, even though I've told it so many times, I cry. But there you go. It's part of what happens. And it's part of why stories are so strong and powerful, and why they change people. And yeah.
So let me ask you a question, because I still have time. Is, what do you think prevented you from getting to this conclusion on your own?
I don't know. My heart rate just went up when you asked that question. I could just feel my heart start to pound harder.
You do not have to answer any question I ask.
No, I know that.
Okay.
I think that's a sign, though, that it's tapping into my anxiety.
Okay, good.
Right. Which is very good for me to recognize, because I didn't used to recognize that.
I know that.
I started working with you
about.
at the same time I was trying to work on my anxiety. And I think it's
really?
been,
The parallels in our lives are amazing.
Parallels are huge, are absolutely huge.
Yep.
I think I am anxious about this. I feel a little bit of imposter syndrome. There's a lot of really great women who have been invited to this. I know I'm capable of doing this, but I don't feel like I deserve to do this.
Got it.
Oh God, that makes me cry.
Me too. Me too.
No, I'm looking at Crystal's face.
I can't. Who relates?
I just felt that, like.
Too.
Yeah, it's and this is what the coaching with Nate has done for me, is it's made me realize how much this has been tied to me being a stay-at-home mom for so many years. I supported my husband in his career for 28 years. He was a retired Air Force officer. Yeah, there's a lot that comes into this. And so this is a 15-minute presentation and it dredges up all of this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, growth is harder than failure.
Yeah.
For people that are traditionally excluded from entrepreneurship. You are part of a historically excluded population. Everyone in here is, for sure. Some more than others, but there's not a single non-historically excluded entrepreneur in the room. So all that's okay. Like,
yeah.
And I don't, like we were talking with Hillary earlier, like, you don't need to overcome that to give a great presentation, right? The imposter syndrome, all that stuff. I think it's I got it from you just now, what you said, which is, look, first of all, it's 15 minutes and it's not going to make or break my life or my business.
Right. It's not.
Secondly, they wouldn't ask you to speak if you didn't know what you were doing. Right.
That's
You're
true.
you've been asked, this is and the third thing is just don't make it about you. Make it about the difference you can make.
That's
the key for me. And when I talk about this, I'm telling you, y'all, like anybody who's listening, this is the key. Like, and I'll tell you, Angie, you are perfect, whole, and complete, and you literally have more than enough skills and intelligence and empathy to make this business work. No problem. And you have proven it over and over again. I've watched it.
Yeah.
I mean, so you're perfect, whole, and complete, and try on everyone is perfect, whole, and complete. The key is not changing ourselves to meet the situation that shows up. It's causing a situation where we can be authentic and natural. That's the real purpose of marketing and business development. It's to put clients in front of us where the best choice is the one we want to do. And you did it. Because if you go in there with some hooty booty, you know, then nobody's going to listen to that shit. But if you share from the gut, like I'm a woman and this is what my life has been like, and I deal with this every day. Yeah. They're going to listen, and you'll get that clearing, and you'll get to make a difference.
Well, and I think realizing that it triggers my anxiety now has made me realize that I just need to use my tools to manage my anxiety, to manage this as well.
Yeah, sounds like my life. I just take a Xanax, and sometimes one isn't enough, but if I take two, I fall asleep. So I just take one and cross my fingers. Yeah,
I'm fortunate that meditation seems to work well for me. So
good.
I will make sure that I meditate on this, and that I do an extra good meditation the night before this event. And I think that'll help me control those emotions better.
Yeah, and don't make yourself wrong. I mean, I think the more we can understand that, like, that imposter syndrome is internalized patriarchal white supremacy.
Yes.
Somebody put that shit there.
I keep reminding myself.
Oh.
Yeah, I do.
And then not to get fixated on that I have to feel good.
Yeah.
Or that I have to solve all of these other problems. That's what I was talking about. Perfect, whole, and complete. Like, look, you don't like however you are. Anxieties, not anxieties, good, bad, whatever, Angie, that's fine. Like, you don't have to fix anything to be successful. As a matter of fact, like, this business is like the one for me and for a lot of people, and maybe for everybody, business entrepreneurship is the one area in life where I don't have to really like change who I am. I'll just make the business around who I am and how I want to work. And if I don't like the people I'm around, I'll just go find people I like. We have that freedom.
Somebody asked me today in a meeting, he says, how come you're always happy when I meet with you? And I was like, oh my goodness, I guess if I'm not happy, I cancel a meeting. So I don't have to have it. But
yes,
I love what I do.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. If I'm in a bad mood, why would I have the meeting? It's you. If you're not bringing your best self, then maybe it's time to reconsider what you're doing. And I love being an entrepreneur because it gives me permission to do that.
I agree with you. And I really feel what you were talking about, which is like, you know, the forces that are out there that are reinforcing imposter syndrome are literally not conquerable. This idea that somehow we're going to get over it and then get on with our lives, it's not fucking happening, people. It's just not. Like, and if it is, I'm not going to pin the future of my business on overcoming 25,000 years of like institutionalized patriarchal domination. I'm going to go around that shit. See, we don't have to fix us. I mean, and it's probably one of the most neurodivergent people in business. I can tell you this. Like, I got long COVID. My ADD is impossible. Like, my executive function is worse than it was before COVID, and that was terrible then. Like, the key is to build processes and businesses around us that work for what we're great at and stop focusing on what we're bad at. You know, we're just conditioned. You go to school, who went to school in the United States? You know, you got a C, they're going to talk to you a hell of a lot more about that C than that A. And in business, we're just trying to figure out what's after A, what's better than an A. And it's a very radical departure from how we've been conditioned to think. You're the best, though. I love you. You know, like, if you just, and you're new in this space, right? Like, this is a newer business. So if you just hold the line, can you see how 5 more years of success is going to change the way you see yourself and your value and the worth that you bring?
I can see how a year has changed.
Right.
And I mean, I've been, this business keeps evolving, and it isn't what I thought it was going to be, but I don't know. I'm just okay with the journey.
Mhm.
It's been good for me. And
Good.
working with mainly Ecuadorians like to work slowly and intentionally. And it's really taught me an awful lot about process and about not being in a hurry, and that things happen when they're meant to happen. And yeah. And so 15 minutes is
Meditation.
doable. Thank you for
Perfect.
this.
Yeah.
You gave me just enough to be able to frame what I need to do.
Yep.
It helped me with that final ask because that was bothering me, but I realized that was probably bothering me in part because I didn't have the structure set up. And yeah, and I feel empowered. So if I feel empowered now, I can empower other people. So
Yeah,
thank you very much, Nate.
Yeah, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to do this and to work through you and to get our shared philosophy about these things into the minds of other people. And I don't have to do it, which is awesome. There's one more thing I was going to ask you. Let me see if I can get it back.
Okay.
It's not coming. That's it.
That's okay. It'll hit later.
Yep, perfect. All right, great. Well, thank you everyone for being here. Crystal, oh, thank you. Angie, thank you. All of our guests, thank you. And for anyone who watches this, thank you. And we'll see you at the next one.
Thank you, Nate. Thanks, everybody.